You know that feeling when your phone lights up with a notification, and for a split second, before you even look at it, your chest tightens, because you know it's not going to be someone asking how you are. It's going to be a promotional email, a spam call, another reminder that the silence in your life isn't an accident, it's a pattern. You sit in your room and the walls don't feel like protection anymore. They feel like a conclusion, like evidence of something you've suspected about yourself for years but never said out loud, that maybe you're the kind of person who just doesn't get to have friends, not because you don't want them, but because somewhere along the way, you learned that wanting them was the most dangerous thing you could do. Here's the paradox nobody talks about. The very thing that kept you safe, your ability to need no one, has become the thing that's suffocating you. You didn't choose isolation because you're cold or broken or fundamentally unlikable. You chose it because at some point connection became synonymous with pain, and your nervous system, in its infinite wisdom, decided that if relationships equal danger, then the logical solution is to stop having them altogether. This isn't about being shy. It's not about being introverted or just needing alone time. This is about something far more profound and far more devastating. This is about what happens when a human being learns through experience that other people are threats to be managed rather than sources of nourishment. And the cruelest part, by the time you're an adult sitting in that silent room, you can't even remember when you made that decision. It just feels like who you are. But it's not who you are, it's what happened to you, and understanding the difference is everything. Let's be precise about what we're really discussing here. In attachment theory, first articulated by John Bowlby and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth, there exists a classification known as avoidant attachment. But that clinical term barely scratches the surface of what's actually happening in the internal world of someone with no friends. Avoidant attachment develops when a child learns that their emotional needs will not be met, or worse, that expressing those needs results in rejection, ridicule, or abandonment. So the child makes an adaptation. They stop asking, they stop reaching. They learn to associate connection with humiliation, and slowly, methodically, they begin to build what psychologists call an autarkic self, a self-sufficient fortress that requires nothing from the outside world. Think of it like this. Imagine your nervous system as a house. In a securely attached person, that house has windows and doors. People can come in, leave, return. The house breathes. But in avoidant attachment, after enough break-ins, enough violations, the house boards up its windows. It reinforces the walls. It becomes a bunker. And yes, nothing can hurt you in a bunker, but nothing can reach you either. You've traded aliveness for safety. This is where hypervigilance enters the equation. Hypervigilance is a state of constant threat assessment, a byproduct of developmental trauma, where the brain's amygdala becomes overactive, scanning every social interaction for signs of danger, rejection, or betrayal. For someone with no friends, every potential relationship is preemptively catastrophized. Your brain has become so efficient at protecting you from pain that it protects you from connection itself. And here's the neurological reality. The default mode network, the part of your brain responsible for self-referential thinking and social cognition, begins to wire itself around isolation. Your brain literally becomes structurally adapted to loneliness. The neural pathways that would normally light up in anticipation of social reward, dopamine, oxytocin, the warm rush of being seen, those pathways atrophy from disuse. Your brain has learned that other people don't bring relief. They bring danger, and so it stops seeking them. The philosophical weight of this cannot be overstated. Martin Buber, the Jewish philosopher, spoke of two fundamental ways of engaging with the world: I-it and I-thou. In I-it relationships, others are objects, utilities, things to be used or avoided. In I-thou relationships, others are subjects, sacred, capable of mutual recognition. People with no friends live almost entirely in the I-it mode, not because they're selfish, but because their early experiences taught them that I-thou is a luxury they cannot afford. To To see another person as fully human, as worthy of trust, requires a vulnerability they learned was lethal. So what does it actually cost to live this way? What is the price of being your own everything? It costs you the ability to be surprised by goodness. It costs you the capacity to believe that someone might stay without an ulterior motive. It costs you the faith that your presence alone, not your usefulness, not your performance, just your raw, unpolished existence, might be enough for another human being. And here's the invisible grief nobody warns you about. You grieve connections you never even had. You grieve the version of yourself who could have called someone at 2 a.m. just to talk. You grieve the ease other people seem to possess, the way they lean into each other without flinching, the way they assume love instead of assuming abandonment. You grieve a childhood you can barely remember, where someone should have taught you that needing people wasn't weakness, it was being human. Carl Jung wrote, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." And that's it, isn't it? You're not lonely because your calendar is empty. You're lonely because you carry 1,000 unspoken truths, 1,000 moments you can't share, 1,000 feelings you've learned to bury so deep that even you can't find them anymore. The core fear driving this entire architecture of isolation is this: if I let someone in, they will see what I am, and they will leave, not might leave, will leave, because somewhere in your developmental history, someone did leave, or they stayed but made you wish they'd left, and your nervous system encoded that as fact, as law, as the fundamental truth about what happens when you make yourself vulnerable. So you stop making yourself vulnerable. You become the person who doesn't need anything, who handles everything alone, who smiles and nods when people talk about their weekend plans but never shares your own. You become a ghost in your own life, present but not participating, watching but not engaging, surviving but not living. And the cruelest irony, the very isolation that was supposed to protect you becomes its own form of suffering. You're not avoiding pain anymore. You're just choosing a different kind. The slow, grinding ache of disconnection, the dull throb of mattering to no one, the exhausting weight of being your own witness to everything that happens to you. Simple moments become unbearable. A birthday spent alone, a promotion no one celebrates with you, a heartbreak you process in silence because there's no one to call. These aren't just lonely moments, they're evidence. Evidence that maybe you were right all along. Maybe you really are the kind of person who doesn't get to have people. But you're not. You're just the kind of person who learned not to reach. So what does this look like in practice? How does a childhood of self-protective isolation manifest in the daily texture of adult life? You become an adult who treats every invitation like a trap. Someone asks if you want to grab coffee, and instead of feeling excited, you feel dread. You immediately start calculating, what do they want from me? What's the angle? Because in your experience, people don't just want to spend time with you. They want something. And even if they don't, even if the invitation is genuine, accepting it means opening a door you've spent years keeping locked. You become an adult who self-sabotages potential friendships before they can fail. You don't return texts. You cancel plans at the last minute. You keep conversations surface level, never revealing anything that matters. Not because you don't want connection, but because you do desperately, and that desire feels dangerous. So you kill the relationship before it can kill you. You ghost people who got too close. You pick fights over nothing. You disappear. Because in your mind, rejection is inevitable, and at least this way, you control the timing. You become an adult who equates independence with virtue. You wear your isolation like a badge of honor. I don't need anyone, you say. I'm self-sufficient. And you are. You become brilliant at meeting your own needs, at solving your own problems, at surviving alone. But here's what no one tells you. That's not strength. That's a trauma response. Real strength would be letting someone see you struggle and not immediately assuming they'll weaponize it. You become an adult whose inner monologue is a prosecutor. Every social interaction is dissected afterward. Every joke you made that landed wrong, every pause in conversation, every moment you felt awkward, your brain catalogs it as evidence of your fundamental inadequacy. You ruminate for hours, days, sometimes years over minor social missteps, convinced they revealed your true unworthiness. Other people move on. You build a case against yourself. You become an adult who mistakes solitude for peace. You tell yourself you prefer being alone, that you're just not a people person, that you're happiest with your books, your shows, your routines. And maybe that's partially true. But if you're honest, really honest, there's a difference between choosing solitude and defaulting to it because the alternative feels impossible. There's a difference between resting in your aloneness and hiding in it. You become an adult who watches life through glass. You see other people forming connections, building communities, laughing with ease, and it feels like watching a movie. Something that happens to other people, something you observe but never participate in. You become fluent in the language of longing, expert at the skill of pretending you're fine, masterful at the art of needing nothing. But beneath it all, there's a question you can't silence. What's wrong with me? And here's what you need to understand. These are coping strategies, not personality traits. You're not inherently antisocial. You're not fundamentally broken. You're not just wired differently. You're a human being who learned that connection was dangerous, and your brain did exactly what brains do. It adapted. It protected you. It helped you survive. But survival isn't the same as living, and the first step toward unlearning this pattern is simple but excruciating. You have to witness your own pain without gaslighting yourself. You have to stop telling yourself you're fine, that you prefer it this way, that you're just not good with people. You have to look directly at the truth. You're lonely, you're hurting, and you deserve better than a life spent in self-imposed exile. The pattern isn't who you are, it's what happened to you. And once you can see that difference, once you can name the mechanism that's been running your life, you can begin the work of choosing something different. So how do you start? How do you begin to dismantle a fortress you spent decades building? The answer is both simpler and harder than you think. You practice being uncomfortable. You practice reaching out even when your nervous system screams danger. You practice sharing something real even when every instinct tells you to keep it hidden. You practice staying in a relationship even when it gets messy, even when the urge to run becomes overwhelming. This is where inner child reparenting becomes essential. You have to become for yourself what you needed as a child, a consistent, unconditionally accepting presence. You have to learn to meet your own vulnerability with tenderness instead of contempt. When that voice in your head says, "You're too much, you're going to scare them away," you have to learn to respond with, "You're not too much, you were just around the wrong people." Shadow work is the practice of integrating the parts of yourself you've disowned, the needy parts, the angry parts, the parts that want connection so badly it hurts. Carl Jung said that we cannot become whole by rejecting our darkness. We become whole by making peace with it, by understanding that every defense mechanism was once necessary, even if it's now obsolete. And here's the radical truth. Healing doesn't mean becoming someone who doesn't need people. Healing means becoming someone who can need people and survive the risk of it. It means building what psychologist Sue Johnson calls secure attachment, not the absence of need, but the ability to reach for connection and trust that it won't destroy you. You start small. You text someone first. You say yes to an invitation even though it terrifies you. You share one true thing about yourself and resist the urge to immediately walk it back. You let someone see you cry, or angry, or uncertain. You practice tolerating the vulnerability of being known. And yes, sometimes people will disappoint you. Sometimes they will leave. Sometimes the risk you take won't pay off. But here's what changes. You learn that disappointment isn't annihilation. You learn that you can survive someone not choosing you. You learn that one rejection doesn't confirm every terrible thing you've ever believed about yourself. Brené Brown writes, "We cultivate love when we allow our most vulnerable and powerful selves to be deeply seen and known." That's it. That's the work. Not becoming invulnerable, but becoming brave enough to be seen in your vulnerability. Not needing no one, but learning that needing someone doesn't make you weak, it makes you human. The goal isn't to be fixed. The goal is to be whole. And wholeness includes the parts of you that ache for connection, the parts that fear abandonment, the parts that have been hurt and haven't fully healed. Wholeness means making room for all of it, the isolation and the longing, the safety and the risk, the person you had to become and the person you're choosing to be now. You are not unlovable. You are not too much or too little or fundamentally wrong. You are someone who learned to survive by shutting down, and now you get to learn to live by opening up. If this resonated with you, if you saw yourself in these words, share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more essays that explore the hidden architecture of human pain and healing. And remember, the opposite of loneliness isn't having friends, it's believing you're worthy of being known. You always were.